Today we'll analyze Naruto's mythology, exploring the legends, gods, demons, and strange creatures behind the guy in the Dutch national team jacket, except he's a ninja. Since this video has many references, I'll focus on classic Naruto, the greatest of all time of anime. If you guys like it, we can move on to Shippuden later, without the fillers too. Of course, in this case, that's more than half of the anime. The anime opens with the Nine Tails attacking the Hidden Leaf Village. I know you expect me to mention the Tailed Beast, but before we discuss the little magic one, hold on. We'll talk about the main concept that appears in Naruto, the ninjas, which I'm sure you who are watching right now already have some idea of what a ninja is. But their true meaning is complicated. Japanese ninja comes from shinobi, the term for ninjas in Naruto, meaning to hide, and mono, meaning people. Just because of that, you should understand, since these people didn't really like to share information, so we know very little about them. Shinobi, Kusa, and Rappa were common names for ninjas, and could also refer to guerrilla fighters, and spies in general, including those who acted mainly during wars, and any samurai soldier or anyone who was hired by a lord and given the role of espionage could be called a ninja. Out of curiosity, they probably didn't wear a black mask or light clothing like we see ninjas wearing in cartoons, movies, and so on. It resembled real samurai clothing and wasn't bright orange, which would be visible from 300 kilometers away. The samurai in Naruto Shippuden actually resemble ninjas more than the actual ninjas. You could also be a real ninja by leaving your, subscribing to the channel, sharing the video, and hyping it up too, because that helps me a lot, my friend. Ninja villages like those in Naruto didn't exist in reality, but some places, such as Iniga and Koka, separated by 20 to 30 years, taught and studied ninjutsu among certain samurai, and 30 kilometers of some mountains, and it took about half a day to walk between them, and they were surrounded by mountains. It could give the impression that these so-called villages, in quotes, were hidden. Occasionally, these schools might also face each other, similar to how villages do in Naruto. Now, talking about ninjutsu, in reality, they would be techniques that people used to be stealthy. Like what the protagonist did in Assassin's Creed. Before anyone could be a protagonist in that game, now it's like that in Naruto. Ninjutsu would be one of the various types of ninjutsu that a person could end up using, meaning actually they would be combat techniques. The first is taijutsu, meaning body technique, which refers to martial arts in Japan, and was used by Goat, also known as Rock, in classic Naruto. Lee?
What isn't ninjutsu or genjutsu? The use of jutsu, which means there's no trick.
There's also genjutsu, which means illusion technique, another term for magic. In Naruto, Itachi is the specialist, while in the real world, it's Mr. M. During my research, I found many jutsus in Naruto I had forgotten about. But since these three are the main ones in the classic, I'm going to talk about the others now. Let's move on to the weapons. The kunais in Naruto, which only killed background characters, were real and ancient, but not actually knives. Yeah, I thought that was strange too. Kunais are a type of tool with a very ancient origin, and they look a bit like the kunai knives we see in the manga. However, the blade was much thicker than a knife, and also, apparently, it was much bigger than a knife. I'll see if I can find an image to show you. It would be much more of a tool for striking than for cutting. And most likely, originally, it was a tool for agriculture, and it would kind of make a nice hole for planting there. And they used it kind of like a tool to mark the spot, or they used it as a lever, like a spatula or a pickaxe. Shuriken did exist, but they weren't as closely linked to ninjas as people often think. Like, for example, in Gekishan's adventures, where those demonic ninjas only used shuriken, it seemed like they had no creativity at all. The shuriken was just one of the many weapons used by samurai. In Naruto, everyone had one, and it was used to attack enemies and all that. I'll shorten and rephrase for clarity. They also scratch their backs, as shown in the first episode. In the Naruto universe, energy is called chakra, which, based on Hinduism and Buddhism, refers to energy centers. They are spread throughout the human body in various places and are responsible for our physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual stability. Usually there are 7 main chakras aligned along the spine, starting from the head and going all the way down. The Muladhara, or root chakra, is at the base of the spine and relates to security and survival. Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra below the navel, relates to creativity and emotions. Manipura, the solar plexus chakra, which is in the stomach region, is linked to psychic power, personal power, and self-confidence. Anahata, the heart chakra in the chest, symbolizes love and compassion. Vishuddha is the throat chakra. I'm located in the throat, right? Related to communication and expression. Aina, which is the third eye between the eyebrows, connected to intuition and wisdom. And Sahasrara, which is the crown chakra, at the top of the head that connects with spirituality and higher consciousness. Chakra isn't the energy's name itself. It's simply called life energy out of curiosity. It has many names depending on the region and religion, like Qi in China and Qi in Japan. Hand signs or hand seals are another famous aspect of Naruto used to perform jutsus. And when we talk about hand seals in Naruto, I always remember that scene with Zabuza and Kakashi doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Jutsu. This whole hand seal thing was probably inspired by Kujien, which is also known as the 9 hand seals, which is a system of mudras or associated mantras that consist of 9 syllables, and the mantras are called kuji. It's a flexible practice that can be adapted to the practitioner's needs. They offer incense, recite the kuji with their hands, and must stay attentive to the present. Kujin practice symbolizes that the universe's forces are united against evil. And that's why it's often used by ordinary people for good luck on trips, especially in the mountains. Now let's discuss the mythological side. Even back in classic Naruto, when Itachi arrives in the village in a very suspicious way and starts facing Kakashi, he uses a technique called Kisukiyomi.
I wonder how much someone without a Keki Genkai can withstand Nutsukuyomi, the realm of nightmares.
This refers to Tsukiyomi, one of the 3 main gods in Japanese mythology, and the Shinto moon god. And sometimes he could also be called by another name, which is Tsukiyomi Otoko, which means the man who reads the moon. His siblings, Amaterasu and Susanoo, are also mentioned in the anime as the sun goddess and the god of seas and storms. They are the children of Izanagi and Izanami, the world shapers in Japanese mythology. Tsukiyomi was born from Izanagi's right eye. When he went down to the underworld to retrieve Izanami, but he couldn't do it and came back, and ended up cleansing himself from the filth of the underworld. But there's another story that says he was born from a white copper mirror that Izanagi held in his right hand. Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu lived together in Takamanohara, the high celestial plane. Unlike Susanoo, Tsukiyomi got along well with his sister. Some cases say they got along so well they eventually married. But their boldness had an expiration date, and everything happened in another story that involves Tsukiyomi. According to this story, Amaterasu asked her love and her brother to go visit. The goddess of food, named Ukamoshi, had prepared a banquet for Amaterasu, and the goddess sent Tsukiyomi to represent her. At the banquet, Tsukiyomi consumed a large amount of food, because according to him it was delicious. But he started to notice something very strange every time he asked for more food. Ukamoshi would disappear, and he didn't hear the sound of fire or knives as she prepared the food and everything else. But instead he heard her coughing or making noises, the usual sounds of someone going to the bathroom. And when he went to see what the goddess was doing, she was kind of vomiting and defecating the food. Tsukiyomi became furious and killed the goddess. Her remains scattered across the world, creating many things. Amaterasu, upon learning what happened, grew angry with Tsukiyomi and chose to distance herself from him. And that would be the reason why the sun and the moon are always separated. And that was also the classic Naruto that we know. The 3 legendary Sannin are Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya, with Orochimaru being a unique case among them. He's inspired by 2 things. First, our snake-loving friend is inspired by Yamato, by Orochi, a serpent dragon in Japanese mythology, which is very similar to the Greek Hydra. It is described as such a giant creature that a cedar forest grew around it. And the Orochi had 8 heads and 8 tails. And it had eyes as red as cherries in winter, and a belly that was always stained with blood. Interestingly, it's defeated by Susanoo, the ability Itachi used to kill Orochimaru in Shippuden. Kill in quotes, right? In fact, in the mythology, when Orochimaru is killed by Susanoo, the god ends up finding inside him a sword called Kusanagi, which Orochimaru also had inside him. In the original Naruto, Yamato no Orochi inspired Orochimaru. He is also influenced, along with Tsunade and Jiraiya, by a tale called The Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant. In this tale, a demonic spirit in the form of a serpent brought misfortune to three clans, Tsukikage, Ogata, and Matsura, which are the homes of Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. This demon once tried to dominate Japan by possessing the powerful Tsukikage clan led by Miyuki, regent of a shogunate. The serpent disguised itself by possessing Orochimaru and staged a fake rescue of Miyuki, who was deceived and adopted him as her son. Gradually, the serpent manipulated the leader to eliminate his heirs, making Orochimaru the sole successor. He also orchestrated the downfall of the Ogata and Matsura clans, who held seals authorizing the formation of armies and fleets. And with these fake news, the two clans were stripped of their seals. Jiraiya and Tsunade, their heirs, were thrown off a cliff but survived with help from a hermit named Sensu Dojin. He raised and trained them. Jiraiya learned toad magic and Tsunade learned slug magic. You already know where we'll end up, right? Well, however, there was a cycle of forces. The magic of the snake overcame the toad. The toad's magic overcame the slug, and the slug's magic defeated the snake. To defeat Orochimaru, they must find Nakirimaru, a sword that can exorcise evil spirits. In the first battle, Jiraiya was gravely injured and could only be saved by the blood of a maiden born that year, on the snake's day and hour. During the search for the sword, he met Ayami again, who was the adopted daughter of Tsukikage, and she sacrificed herself to heal him. Years later, Jiraiya and Tsunade found Nakimaru there, in the Valley of Hell. With the sword, they faced Orochimaru, defeated the serpent, and restored the honor of their clans. Free from possession, Orochimaru was forgiven thanks to the intervention of Jiraiya, the nine-tailed fox who was responsible for destroying the Leaf Village. As I mentioned earlier at the start of the anime and in my video about demons behind Naruto, it was inspired by a kitsune, which is a type of magical fox that is part of the obaki, or bakemono, which are animal spirits that transform into humans. In Japan, their image represents intelligence, wisdom, and they are often associated with beings of curses, and sometimes also with sacred beings. Kitsunes are described as intelligent beings that possess magical abilities, which increase according to their age and their wisdom. Every century, they gain a new tail and more power. Upon reaching the ninth tail, they become nearly demigods, achieving omniscience and near omnipotence. One of their main abilities is the capacity to take on human form. Usually they appear in the form of an attractive woman. Let's be direct here, right? They appear as an attractive woman or sometimes as an old lady. While some tales talk about them using this ability to deceive others, other stories say they could be guardians, loyal friends, lovers, and even wives. Folklore says they fear dogs and flee whenever they see one. Other abilities attributed to them are possession, the ability to spit fire, appear in dreams, create illusions, and even bend time and space or drive a person insane. A tale that in the classic Naruto wasn't called that, right? It was called a mirror, sand spirit, and appears inside Gaara. It's inspired by the tanuki, the Japanese raccoon dog, though the term hasn't always meant just this animal. In the past, the term also described badgers, civets, and even a type of wild cat. Despite the physical resemblance and the name, tanukis are not raccoons. While the fox is associated with mysteries and intrigue, the tanuki is portrayed as playful and mischievous. He loves parties, drinks, and fun, and is considered a symbol of good luck. He is commonly depicted holding a sake bottle and a promissory note. He is a master of transformation. Tanuki often disguises himself as a human to trick others, especially merchants, by paying with leaves that resemble money. These stories became so popular that Tanuki statues still appear in front of roads, bars, and restaurants. Tanuki's playful personality appears in the sand spirit, making him so mischievous he even fights Naruto. Its natural form is recognized by 8 traits. He has a smiling face, a sake flask, a straw hat, big eyes, a note, and a debt notebook. He has a long tail, a big belly, and very large testicles. That last one, in this case, even though it's quite funny, doesn't have a sexual connotation. It symbolizes prosperity and good fortune. In the legends, tanukis even use their testicles in a caricatured way during pranks and fights, reinforcing their role as amusing and beneficial figures. In the Japanese imagination, another creature referenced in classic Naruto is Wukong. Yes, your Wukong, the same one who beat up all the Chinese gods. He appears as the Monkey King Enma, the third Hokage's monkey, right? He's the Monkey King with a size-changing staff. So I don't even need to explain why. He's inspired by Wukong. During the battle between the third Hokage and Orochimaru, we also encounter the Shinigami. Even though he became very famous in anime and manga as the god of death in Japan, he wasn't always the god of death in Japan. He doesn't appear in ancient texts like the Kojiki, Nihon Shoki, and Fudoki, which are the basis of Japanese mythology. Not even the yokai officially fall into this category. The modern Shinigami figure is fairly recent, though a similar concept existed in the Edo period. He became known in the Meiji era, when Japan adopted many European ideas. The Shinigami is essentially Japan's take on the European concept of death. Over time, Japan ended up adopting this character and included him in various stories, especially in the anime and manga we know, like Death Note, for example. These works led the West to believe Shinigami were Japan's god of death, but that's not true. If you liked it, leave a like, comment, share, and who knows, if you ask a lot in the comments, maybe I'll bring the Naruto Shippuden version.